Hey guys, Matthew here. So today I'll bring you something a little bit different. It's not quite economy based, but it's still based around making currency. So I'm going to be talking about lab running. Now I used to lab run a lot, and I recently came back to it after kind of getting bored with trading. We are closing into the second month of the league, so a lot of people are quitting. If they haven't quit already, they're all just going to go back to playing other stuff for the final month of the league or two or month and a half or so, and then be back for the next league. That tends to be how PoE leagues go. They don't really last for more than a month and a half, at least normally, unless the league is excessively good. And considering all the bugs and exploits this league had, duping, for example, it did get rid of a lot of players quite quickly. So here we are. I got pretty bored. I figured I wanted to do something different, and I decided that was going to be lab running. So I've been thinking about it and trying to min-max every aspect of the game and both inside and out, to try to be as fast as possible to beat the person who's been dominating the ladder forever. And I came up with a good enough build, good enough system, good enough everything to actually start winning some labs. So as you can see, I've won I've been first in the past 4 days, at least in Merciless Lab. I haven't focused on Uber yet, but that is going to be my next point of contestment. But I've been contesting him in Merciless Lab and winning by, a second or so pretty much every day, and also forced him to stop streaming, which is also quite funny, considering I called him out for not being legitimate, and all of a sudden he stops streaming when I start pushing him to his limit. Coincidence perhaps, but either way, this is not what this video is about. This video is about helping you guys, get on top of this ladder, or, maybe not on top, but get you faster at running lab. Maybe you're thinking about making a lab runner next league. Maybe you're thinking about trying to compete for the jewels, because they are worth a lot of currency. The Merciless jewel is worth 30 exalts, so you can easily make 30 exalts a day by winning that. And the one in Uber Lab is worth 100 plus exalts. So clearly, these jewels are worth a lot. The demand is there. They sell rather quickly. So lab running can be a very good way to make currency on top of everything else. Obviously, when you're running lab, you get all the chests, you get the enchants and everything else. The jewels are basically like a bonus. So let's get into it. First thing I want to do, the first video, because this is going to be multiple videos. This video is going to be about tools to use outside of the game to help you inside of the game. The first one is going to be talking about basically PoELab. All the links are going to be in the description, by the way, so don't worry about that. So PoELab is basically a tool that shows you the outline of the layouts on a daily basis with, lab notes or personal, maybe even personal videos of the guy who runs lab, showing you the video of his run, where the things are located, if there's like a secret passage, for example, stuff like that. And this is also a program to use inside of the game. So I'll show you guys how to set this up. You're going to download it, obviously, on the main page. Then you go to your desktop. You're going to have a shortcut here for this tool called Lab Compass. When you run Lab Compass, it's going to look like this, which is obviously a compass. Now, how do you get this to run is you're going to have to download the file for that specific lab. So if you're running, let's say, Uber Lab of today, which is February 5th, you're going to download the file by clicking this, and it's going to save itself. You just click this little arrow, you go to import maps, and it's going to be here. So for example, Uber February 5th would be right here. You click on it, and all of a sudden it's there. Now, if you wanted this to be shown inside the game to give you like an outline of the layout, you click this little gear here, and then you press this button, and you're going to have to show where your .exe file. So the default place would be program files, grinding gear games, path of exile, and obviously the client file that you use, the .exe file you use. So it could be client, path of exile, or x64. I think I run off x64. So you're going to go to open that and click OK. And now if I jump in game, I'll show you guys what it looks like and what it does for you. So if I jump in game here, and I go to the lab, the plaza anyways, you'll see that it's going to say loaded the map 2020 to 5 Uber. Now, if I was actually running merciless, I could choose merciless. It's going to load the merciless map. I believe this reads off of your client file, so it's not memory based. So there is no chance you're going to get banned for using this or anything. This is completely safe. You don't have to worry about it. So you activate this, and if you go into the lab, you'll see that it's going to show you basically an outline of what the layout looks like. This is what the layouts look like. Basically, how you read this is that this is the outline of the layout. So if I was to, discover the entire layout, it would look something like this. There's the loot. It's going to show loot or dark shrine, stuff like that. It's going to show you what the legend is. For example, a golden little square is where the golden key is. If you look on the map, that is right here. So if I was to run this lab and I was heading down right here, you'll see that I have a golden key to actually retrieve. Now, then, if I was to follow along, you'll see that there's 2 doors, but this one with the green circle is the quickest one. So, the one to go to estate path, which is the left side door, so we'll go to the left side. Now, the next zone is going to look something like this. You'll see the loot is actually a dark shrine, which means there's a dark shrine either in this corner of the map or this. If you're doing a full key run or a currency run, which is where you're trying to make as much currency as possible, you want to get all the dark shrines you can. So you'd be looking at this or this. So just to show you guys what that would look like, let's go ahead and see if it's over here. It looks like it is. There you're going to have a little switch to press. It's going to drop down or whatever, and it's going to look something like this. This dark shrine is going to give you a little bit of a bonus when it comes to completing your lab. As you can see, this one says traps are disabled. Now, if I was to follow the layout, it tells me to go over here. So, and it says that it's going to be Aspirant's Trial. So, as you can see, Aspirant's Trial over here. And then, you do this for the entire lab. So, it's really useful because it allows you to not, know every single layout every single day. It's like a nice little tool. That being said, obviously, it gives you an outline. It doesn't tell you the exact layout. So, for example, the outline is going to be the same every single day, or not every single day, but sorry, every single lab in a given day, but the traps and the actual look of the map is going to change. So for example, in today's lab, this is the outline, so every single time you run this layout, or this zone, it's going to look like this. But the actual travel path and stuff is going to change. So maybe here you have to go like through here, through here, through here, down here. Maybe next path, next lab, this is going to be completely blocked off and your only entry is going to be on this side. Stuff like that. So that's going to change every single lab. Well, given basically it's seed-based like pretty much everything else in this game. So that's what I wanted to show you guys when it comes to Lab Compass. Now there's one more different tool I want to show you guys, and that is called a RAM disk. A RAM disk allows you to basically run the game off of the fastest memory in your system. Well, technically it's not the fastest because CPU cache memory is faster than RAM, but RAM is technically, at least in usable size, the fastest memory in your system. If you're running an SSD and you think it's a good one, well, your RAM is probably about 10 times faster in reading and writing speeds. So clearly, running the game off of your RAM is a very big advantage. That being said, there is a little bit of an issue with this. If you go to your program files and you look at the file of the size of the file, PoE is about 26.5 gigabytes in size. Now the actual size is right here, which is 26.2. So you're going to need at least 26.2 gigabyte of RAM that is free on your system to actually be able to run the whole game on RAM disk. How much RAM does that mean? Normally, if you're running Windows 10, your system's going to need about 4 gigabytes of RAM to operate. So technically, if you have anywhere between 32 gigabytes or plus in RAM in your system, you'll be perfectly fine to run on RAM disk. Now, if you try to like stream it or whatever, you might start running into issues. But if you're just running RAM disk and your game, you'll be fine with 32 gigabytes. At least you should be. Now, one thing to note is that you can actually mix and match RAM. So personally, I had 32 gigabytes in my system, and I didn't consider that to be enough because I want to be able to stream it and stuff. So I went ahead and slapped on 16 gigabytes of my old RAM from an older system inside my new system, which is my streaming system, and bring that up to 48 gigabytes. So I have 2 sticks of 32 and 2 sticks of 16. or sorry, 2 sticks of 16 and 2 sticks of 8, and it still runs fine. As you can see, there's no problem with the system whatsoever. One thing to note though is that your system, or your motherboard really, is going to automatically downclock the faster RAM to the slowest one, so your entire PC is going to run at the slowest speed possible. So let's say you had a 32 gigabyte kit with a 3.2 or 3200 megahertz kit with a 3600 megahertz kit, your PC is going to run at 32. That being said, you can go into your BIOS and manually overclock, which is what I personally did, by loosening up the timings. Now that might sound like crazy nerd stuff. If you have any questions, ask them in the description. I'll try to help you guys out to set this up as best as I possibly can. Now, how does this work? So you're going to go to this website. All the links are going to be in the description or in the comment section, whatever. And you're going to download this MDisk toolkit. It's once you've downloaded it and installed it, you're going to have a tool that looks something like this on your desktop. You can run this as administrator, and this is going to open up. You press Mount New, which is going to allow you to make a new RAM disk. You're going to choose the letter. That doesn't really matter. Choose the size of the disk. So, for example, I normally use 30. It's a nice round number for PoE. I use 30, and then you choose gigabytes. And then you get to choose if you want to create it in virtual or physical memory. Technically, virtual memory should be faster than physical memory, at least when it comes to what's it called, synthetic benchmarks and stuff. So like Crystal Disk Mark would run way faster in virtual, but in reality, when it comes to the actual loading screens in PoE, running it in physical, virtual doesn't really matter. But for the sake of this, virtual is supposed to be faster, so let's go virtual. One thing to note though is that virtual memory, sometimes basically if you run something off virtual memory, it won't actually read it, so it won't work. That being said, I've never encountered any issues with running virtual memory for PoE. So let's call it a day and make this. Now this disk is going to need to be formatted. So you're going to press Format Disk, and then you're going to have to choose your format. So you go default allocation, start that. Click OK, and the format is complete. That's literally all it is. Now all you have to do is go back to your main drive and drag and drop your PoE file into your new RAM disk file. RAM disk. One thing to note though is that RAM is temporary memory. There is never a single thing saved onto your RAM permanently. So every time you restart or reboot your computer, you're going to have to recreate this RAM disk and transfer the file over. That being said, there is a way to automate that process through task scheduler. So whenever you reboot your PC, the task is going to be to remake the RAM disk and copy over the folder. Once again, if you need any help with that, let me know. There is a nice little guide on doing that I'll post in the description, the link for that as well. Personally, I tried it and it didn't work, so I'm stuck doing it manually, but I don't really mind. It takes like a minute. It's no big deal. If you're the kind of person who puts their PC on sleep mode instead of shutting it down or whatever, or hibernation mode or whatever, then it's actually going to keep the RAM disk intact. So long as you don't do a complete reboot or restart, the RAM disk is going to be there. So what RAM disk is for is basically, it's going to help you a lot with loading times. Your game is going to run a lot faster. It's because the reading and writing memory, well, it's reading in this case, is just quicker. So loading screens are going to load faster. So just to show you guys the difference here, I'm in PoE right now. If I go to the Labyrinth, I'll show you guys basically what kind of loading speed you can expect. Obviously, though, it is ping dependent, so depending on your ping, that's also going to affect it. So for people who live outside of the Canada or the US, if you have anywhere over 100 ping, that is going to delay your loading speeds, which is kind of stupid, and I wish GGG changed that, because the #1 person who's been, winning lab almost every day in every single league ever, pretty much only wins off of the fact that he has faster loading times than everybody else, despite the fact that his runs are normally way sketchier and way less clean and also way slower than most other people. But his loading screens are pretty much instant, which gives him a massive advantage. So if GGG ever watch this video for some odd fucking reason, and they see this, I think they should remove loading screens as part of the lab timer, because they actually have the ability to do that, considering the client file actually notes down whenever you enter a zone and whenever you're done loading a zone. So technically, they could just remove the loading screens outside of the equation and have actual times of lab running and not lab loading. So sorry if I'm mauling over that. I just think it's a completely stupid system that is pretty much, making lab running kind of pay to win, needing, 32 gigabytes of RAM, needing a good connection, needing a good ping. There are people who are probably way better than me at running lab, for example, that are left completely in the dust because they don't necessarily have the system or the connection or whatever it is, like the tools or whatever. So it's really sad that it's not actual just skill that's being, accounted for, and a lot of outside things, which I think is pretty dumb. And I know GGG has the tools required to actually make it fair for everybody, which is a little bit annoying, but oh well. Either way, to show you guys, this is how fast we run on a RAM disk. Now, if you actually pre-buffer the zone, which is possible by going inside the zone and then leaving it, you can go back, and if you open it again, you'll see that it's basically instant. There's not even any loading screen. So that's pretty OP. So pre-buffering the zone, honestly, though, isn't that good because it only applies to the first zone in the lab. The moment you're gone into a second zone, it is no longer buffered. So it's not like it buffers the entire lab or anything, just the first zone. But it does save you that 1 second or so off of the initial loading screen, which can be the difference between winning and losing. Because if you pay attention to my times when it comes to winning and losing in the past few days, I'm always winning by basically 1 second. It's always about 1 second faster, 1 second slower. And so on and so forth. So there is that to be said. So either way, that's basically it for the video. I'm going to have another couple videos. Basically, I'm going to have a video that's going to be about tips and tricks inside the lab. So for example, pre-smoke mining, etc., flash charges, paying attention to all that stuff. So I'll be taking care of that in another video, and I'll probably have a video for the actual build as well, because it is a very sketchy build, but it's really fun to play. It's really fast, but yeah, it is sketchy, and you're kind of killing yourself, but it is what it is, and it is the price to pay to go fast. So either way, before I leave, I do want to say a huge thank you to my Patreon, which is these guys. So Drool, Jared, KFish, Caleb, Corey, Dave, Kevin, Morton, Daniil, General, Hunter, Joe, Kacper, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, kURTIS, Mathias, Michi, Pankaks, Wex, apzera, MrCoffee, Emil the Delver, Super J. All you guys are basically making this whole thing possible. I really appreciate the support. If you do want to join this list and be added to my nice little document, link is going to be in the description for the Patreon. Otherwise, you can check me out on Twitch. I try to stream every day. I've been really focused on trying to get as fast as possible in lab, though, so I haven't been streaming that every single day. But look out, be on the lookout for the next videos, which are going to be about basically increasing your speed inside of the lab, and also tips and tricks to make your build quicker and stuff like that. So that's going to be Matthew signing out. Until the next one, thanks for watching. Peace out.